My name is Vanessa Cole. I am 34 years old and I work as a hydrogeologist in Phoenix, Arizona. 4 months ago, my parents sold my grandmother's desert ranch outside Silver City, New Mexico, for $710,000. They split every dollar with my older brother, Travis. They told me Grandma Aliner died without a will. They told me there was nothing left for me. What they forgot, what none of them even thought to investigate, was what existed beneath that dry, cracked land. Because my grandmother did leave a will. And before she died, she separated one thing from the property itself: the underground water rights and rare mineral leases. She left all of them to me. 3 months later, a corporate environmental survey valued the underground reserves at $6.3 million. The same land my parents rushed to sell for quick cash turned out to be sitting on one of the most valuable groundwater lithium deposits in southern New Mexico. And this is the story of how a family betrayal worth $710,000 exploded into a $6.3 million inheritance they never saw coming. Welcome back to Top Family Drama Stories, the channel where hidden truths, family betrayals, and quiet revenge always rise to the surface. If you enjoy emotional family drama with shocking twists, subscribe now and drop a comment below, because this story only gets worse from here. The ranch sat 14 miles outside Silver City at the end of a dusty county road, surrounded by mesquite trees and red sandstone hills. 240 acres, dry riverbeds, rusted fencing, a windmill that squealed every evening at sunset. Most people looked at the property and saw nothing special. My grandmother saw survival. Aliner Cole bought the first 60 acres in 1969 after my grandfather died in a mining accident. She expanded the ranch piece by piece for 40 years, paying cash whenever she could. She trusted land more than banks. I spent every summer there growing up, not because my parents wanted me there, but because Grandma Aliner did. My brother Travis hated the ranch, said it smelled like dust and goats. He stayed inside watching television whenever we visited. I followed Grandma everywhere. She taught me how to read rock layers before I learned algebra. She would crouch near dry creeks and tap stones with the heel of her boot. "People think deserts are empty," she used to say. "That's because they only look at the surface." I never forgot that sentence. My parents did. My mother, Denise Cole, worshipped appearances, matching furniture, church reputation, neighborhood gossip. My father, Richard, spent most evenings sitting silently in front of sports broadcasts pretending silence counted as leadership. And Travis was their golden child. He played baseball, stayed local, married young, and opened 3 businesses that failed one after another while my parents quietly covered his debts every single time. Meanwhile, I earned scholarships, graduated top of my class, and built a career studying groundwater systems in the Southwest. To my parents, that made me arrogant. "You always think you're smarter than everybody else," my mother told me once after I corrected her about drought restrictions during dinner. Maybe I was, at least smarter than the lies they were about to tell me. Grandma Aliner died on a Sunday morning in hospice care. I found out Tuesday night, not from my family, but from my cousin Rachel, who accidentally mentioned the funeral while asking if I was flying in. I remember standing frozen in my apartment kitchen with a coffee mug halfway to my mouth. "What funeral?" I asked. Silence. Then Rachel whispered, "Oh my God, they didn't tell you?" No, they didn't. The funeral had already happened. My family buried my grandmother without even informing me. That was the first twist, but not the worst one. I flew to New Mexico the next morning anyway. When I arrived at the ranch, the locks on Grandma's house had already been changed. Less than 72 hours after she died, my mother opened the door just enough to block the entrance with her body. "We already handled everything," she said. Everything, as if a human life could be packed into storage boxes and sold off by lunchtime. I noticed something immediately. Grandma's old steel filing cabinet near the hallway was gone. The cabinet where she kept deeds, tax records, and legal documents. "Where's Grandma's filing cabinet?" I asked. My mother crossed her arms. "Junk removal took it." Lie, instantly, because my grandmother labeled every folder by year and category. She treated paperwork like sacred scripture. She would never throw away legal records. That night, Travis cornered me beside the barn. "You need to stop interrogating Mom," he snapped. You left years ago. You don't get to swoop back and acting entitled. There it was, the family slogan. You left, he stayed, as if geographic location determined human worth. 2 weeks later, my mother called me at 6:12 a.m. Arizona time. Your grandmother didn't leave a will, she said immediately. The ranch is being sold. No sadness, no hesitation, just business. She explained the money would help Travis recover from another failed construction company. My parents also wanted to buy a retirement condo near Scottsdale. You have your career, she added. You don't need anything from us. I stared out my apartment window at the Phoenix skyline glowing orange in the sunrise. Something felt wrong, not emotionally wrong, structurally wrong, like discovering a fracture line beneath solid rock. My grandmother was meticulous. She tracked rainfall totals in spiral notebooks dating back to 1982. She documented water levels every month. She notarized Christmas card receipts. A woman like that does not die without estate planning. So I started digging. First online property records, then county filings, then land transfer databases. 3 hours later, I found the ranch listing. 240 acres listed at $710,000, below market value by at least $250,000. Fast sale, cash preferred, but one phrase in the listing stopped me cold. Surface rights included. Included, not complete ownership. My chest tightened because in Western property law, wording matters. Surface rights included means something underground was excluded. Water, minerals, extraction access, something valuable had already been severed legally from the property. And suddenly my grandmother's missing filing cabinet made perfect sense. I downloaded county records. That's when I found the affidavit, filed by Denise and Richard Cole. The document stated my grandmother died without a will. It also stated I had voluntarily relinquished any inheritance claims. I almost laughed when I read that line because not only had I never signed anything, I hadn't even been informed she died until after the funeral. That was when suspicion became certainty. My parents committed fraud. I called an old college friend named Monica Reyes, now an attorney specializing in environmental land rights. Hypothetically, I asked, what happens if heirs file false probate documents? Her answer came instantly. Hypothetically, they go to court. Then came the second major twist. While searching archived tax filings, I found a legal payment made by my grandmother to an attorney in Las Cruces named Harold Bennett. The memo line read, Water Trust Revision. I called immediately. The receptionist went silent when I said my name. Oh, thank God, she whispered. Mr. Bennett's been trying to reach you for months. My pulse started hammering. Months, apparently certified letters had been mailed to the ranch after the funeral, returned unopened, phone calls blocked, messages ignored. My mother intercepted every single attempt. And then Harold Bennett said the sentence that changed everything. Your grandmother left explicit instructions for you, Miss Cole. I drove to Las Cruces the next morning. Harold Bennett's office smelled like leather books and old paper. He was in his 70s with silver hair and the tired eyes of a man who had spent decades watching families destroy themselves over inheritance. Without speaking, he placed a weathered tin lockbox on the desk. I recognized it immediately. Grandma Aliner's box. Inside were three things: a notarized will, a groundwater rights trust agreement, and a handwritten letter folded twice down the center. My hands shook opening it. Vanessa, if your mother is handling my estate, check what's underground before you trust a single word she says. The desert keeps secrets better than people do. I stopped breathing for a second. Harold leaned forward quietly. Your grandmother transferred all underground water and mineral leasing rights into a protected trust 18 months before she died, he explained. To you exclusively. I stared at him. What exactly does that mean? It means your parents sold dirt, he said calmly, but they never owned what was beneath it. Then came another twist. Harold opened another file folder. Inside was an environmental assessment commissioned privately by my grandmother 6 months before her death. Lithium traces, high concentration groundwater reserves, commercial extraction potential. My grandmother already knew, not the full value, but enough to protect it from my family. I drove straight to the ranch. The new owners hadn't moved in yet. I parked outside the fence and walked the dry creek carrying testing kits from my truck. 3 soil samples, 2 groundwater samples, 1 deep sediment core near the western ridge where Grandma used to say the dirt felt heavier. Back in Phoenix, the lab results confirmed everything. Lithium-rich brine deposits beneath the aquifer system. Estimated commercial value? $6.3 million. I sat alone in my office, staring at the numbers for almost 20 minutes. All those years, my family treated Grandma Aliner like a stubborn old desert woman clinging to useless land, and she had been sitting on a fortune. That should have been the end. Lawyers, documents, court filings, simple, but families like mine never collapse quietly. Because a week later, my mother posted photos online celebrating the sale money. New luxury SUV, vacation condo. Travis showing off a fishing boat with the caption, "Finally winning again, family takes care of family." I looked at the screen for a long time, then I called Monica. Send the legal notices. Certified letters hit their mailbox 3 days later. 40 minutes after delivery, my phone exploded. Travis called first. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. "Some lawyer says Grandma left underground rights to you?" "She did." Silence. "You're lying. There's a notarized trust agreement filed 18 months before she died." Another silence. Longer this time. Then quietly, Mom said there wasn't a will. Exactly. Denise called next, crying immediately. "You're trying to destroy this family?" Interesting how accountability always sounds like destruction to dishonest people. "You filed false probate documents," I said calmly. "You forged inheritance claims. You intercepted legal correspondence. You sold property you partially concealed from beneficiaries." Her crying stopped instantly. That told me everything because guilty people know exactly which accusation is true. My father called 2 days later, soft voice, exhausted. "Your mother didn't think you cared about the ranch anymore." I almost laughed. "She buried my grandmother without telling me." Silence. Then finally, "We needed the money." And there it was, not grief, not confusion, greed. But the biggest twist came from Travis. 3 nights before our annual family reunion, he sent me a message nobody else saw. Mom knew about the underground rights before Grandma died. I reread that sentence 6 times. Apparently, Travis overheard Grandma arguing with my mother months earlier. Grandma Aliner warned her directly, "The underground trust belongs to Vanessa. Leave it alone." My mother knew the entire time. She didn't accidentally hide the will. She intentionally ignored my grandmother's final wishes, hoping nobody would discover the underground assets until after the sale closed. That changed everything. The reunion happened at my parents' new vacation condo clubhouse. 40 relatives, plastic tables, cheap decorations, forced smiles, and me walking in carrying a silver briefcase full of documents. My mother went pale the moment she saw me. Good, I waited until everyone gathered for dinner. Then I stood up beside the dessert table and said, "I think Grandma Aliner deserves the truth tonight." The room went silent. I explained everything. The hidden will, the forged affidavit, the intercepted letters, the underground trust. Then I placed the geological valuation report on the table. $6.3 million. You could actually hear people stop chewing. My cousin dropped a fork. My uncle whispered, "Jesus Christ." And Travis? Travis wouldn't look at our mother anymore. Denise stood up screaming. "She manipulated all of you. She always thought she was smarter than this family." Nobody defended her. Not one person. Because evidence destroys manipulation faster than emotion ever can. Then Travis did something none of us expected. He walked across the room and handed me an envelope. Inside were printed screenshots, text messages, messages between him and my mother before the ranch sold. One line stood out immediately. "We have to move fast before Vanessa finds out what Aliner hid underground." The room exploded. My aunt started crying. My father sat down like someone unplugged him from the wall. And my mother realized in real time that even her favorite child had just chosen survival over loyalty. I looked directly at her. "You didn't just steal from me," I said quietly. "You stole from Grandma." For once in her life, Denise Cole had no response. 6 months later, the court settlement finalized. My parents avoided criminal fraud charges by agreeing to financial penalties and admitting the affidavit contained false statements. The underground trust remained entirely mine. Commercial extraction agreements moved forward. The first royalty advance alone exceeded everything my family made from the ranch sale combined. Travis sold the fishing boat. My parents sold the condo. And the strange part? I never felt victorious. Not really. Because by the time the truth surfaced, the family was already hollow underneath, just like dry desert ground before collapse. I still keep Grandma Aliner's lockbox on my office shelf. Inside is her handwritten note. The desert keeps secrets better than people do. She was right. But eventually, even buried things rise to the surface.